Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a quasi nice day out there. A little cold here on the East Coast, but still keeps me in a good mood. So that's good as we head into our training. Let me go ahead and turn my captions off, and we can get rocking and rolling. Uh, by the way, for those of you showing up early and on time, I just want to say thank you. First off, I really appreciate that you do. And when you engage in the comments in the chat, especially when you put a comment in, LinkedIn pushes the word out to other people who have registered and say, hey, we're starting. Even lets other people know on LinkedIn, hey, we're starting in here. So that's awesome. What I want to offer you is as we go forward, I'm going to be talking about how to be unforgettable today with the federal buyer and with teammates, et cetera. If you go through the exercises and you want to shoot me a message on direct message on LinkedIn here and say, hey, do you feel like I nailed it kind of thing? Am I memorable or unforgettable with my message here? If you want to send that to me, I'd be happy to offer that to you for those of you showing up early and on time. Again, thanks for doing that. Okay, let's get rocking and rolling into the training about being unforgettable to the federal buyer and being unforgettable throughout the industry, right? You want anybody who's in the federal market to be able to remember you and refer you to others when they hear about something, et cetera. I have this line, an opening line here that I say, you don't get remembered for everything. You get remembered for one thing. and that's the case, right? People can't remember a whole bunch of stuff. If you say, I do all these different things and you want me to remember, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to fail. Literally, it's the same with your name. If you have a name like Tom Jones, that's pretty easy for me to catch on the first time. But if you have a name that's a little bit harder, or you go by a different designation like Jim instead of James or something, it's your responsibility to help me remember you. I've used this example before. I'm an outgoing kind of a guy. I'll say hi to people. But if I see you in the grocery store and I can't remember what the heck your name is, and we've seen each other multiple times, I will sometimes just turn away because I'll be too embarrassed to come at you. And that is a common type approach at a networking event or whatever. Like, oh, what was that person's name? What were they doing? And you do that kind of half wave. Hey, how's it going? You don't want that. You want people to fully remember you, like in the TV show way back in the day called Cheers, where this one patron walked into the bar and everybody would yell, Norm. That's what you want, right? You want everybody to remember your name. And in this community, it's a community where everybody wants to know your name. Everybody wants to know that one thing that you sell. And so we want to remember that one thing, but it's your responsibility to make it easier for us. And I'm going to help you do that today. Too often, what I find is that small business government contractors, we come out saying we sell everything. And I know why we do this, right? We do this because we feel like if I don't say that I sell these different things, I might miss out on an opportunity. That's called FOMO, and I'll talk more about it later in the slide deck. But the reality is there's an alternate to FOMO, which is opportunity cost. If you try to go after something or multiple things, you might miss out on the actual contract you would win. And so you're letting yourself be distracted. When you say you do everything out there, no one believes you, first off. And no offense, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying everybody looks and goes, well, you're a 5-person company or you're a 20-person company. You can't be doing everything. Booz Allen doesn't even do everything, right? Booz Allen is a huge multi-billion-dollar company with 16,000 plus employees. They don't build airplanes. They don't do construction. They don't do everything, right? There's certain things they're really good at. And for us small businesses, we want to take a page out of that book to be known for one thing. Because when you think about when you're talking to somebody and you go in and say, hey, I do all this kind of stuff, I think to myself, well, you do everything. I don't need everything right now. Right now, what I need is a Penn State cup for the Nittany Lions out there. I need this pen. I need this cybersecurity solution or something. I need one thing, not everything. And people don't buy everything, right? They're looking for your expertise. They buy that one thing and they want to buy it from the best. Our job is to show our customers and potential teaming partners that we are the best at this one thing. Come talk to me when you're ready. An example is I'm a government contracting expert, but my one thing is sales. And if I tighten it even tighter, it's getting in the door. That is my absolute expertise. I very, very good at it. I've been doing it for a long, long time. But I've been in government contracting. I know the FAR to a degree. I know pricing. I've done pricing my whole career in my own companies, right? I've written proposals, but I'm not claiming I'm a proposal expert. I've written proposals. I'm experienced at it. What I'm an expert at, that one sweet spot that really I can differentiate myself from my competitors, if there's competitors out there, right, is getting you in the door of your target agency, meeting with the program office and the buyers. That's what I can do. What's your one thing among all the things you might think you do? What's the one thing you really can do? That's what I want you to remember, because when you have that locked down, you can then drive towards a $100 million company. None of you started a company or are in a business that only wants to be a $1 million or $10 million company, right? You envision that it's going to be a $100 million company, or you'll eventually sell it, and you can only sell a company if it has value. Well, you can build a $100 million business selling one thing in the federal market eventually, right? As you build it up over 10 plus years or something, and you're doing all the right things, but you stick to that one thing, and you can be known for that one thing and as the best. I use this example sometimes that I really like because it fits right with that 100 million. But I have a friend who built a $100 million company just doing data analytics in just one agency within the Health and Human Services Department. And they stay focused on their one thing. If you stay focused, what you will find is more of the opportunities you want to win are going to come your direction. And if that's what you want, that's what today's training is about. So stick with me, and we're going to dive into how to be unforgettable to federal buyers and to other government contracting companies within the federal market. I'm going to break up today's training into 3 sections. The first one is helping you understand the power of being typecast or known for one thing. Sometimes we call it pigeonholed type thing. Today, I like the idea of typecast because I'm going to use Hollywood as an example. Second thing I want to talk about is FOMO. I mentioned it briefly, but fear of missing out, FOMO, hurts us long term. And it's really important you understand that. And I'm going to use an example that I hope will resonate with you out there. And then the last thing is steps to become unforgettable in the federal market. I'm going to give you a couple of really direct steps on how can you start being unforgettable in a way that everybody who's in this chat today and in the training sits there and goes, oh, ABC company does this, or John Smith does this, and it's just in our heads. If you train us, then you're going to be unforgettable. So I'll train you on how to do that and how to be unforgettable. If you want to be unforgettable, and that's what you're looking for in today's training, throw in the chat, be unforgettable. Let those who are not here yet know that we're in here being unforgettable. Speaking of unforgettable, if you happen to not know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. After I got out of the Army, I spent 20 years as a government contractor, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. Excuse me, when we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. When you are memorable to people, if you are unforgettable, that's part of the process, right? That delivers you repeatable introductions. You will start seeing more and more people come to you because you're unforgettable. All of that is part of the process. And that's why I love teaching the process. If you haven't followed me on LinkedIn yet, follow me on LinkedIn. Join 40 other 1,000 people who are following me. This is my network and your network. When you come into my network, all of a sudden you meet the people who are in my network. Literally, there's all sorts of people who are writing Be Unforgettable, like Dennis Harris there, for example, right? They're in there and they're your network. You should be networking with each other. And I try to make my network wide open to you. And if you haven't subscribed to my newsletter, subscribe to Government Contracting Success newsletter. It's right here on LinkedIn. It's the largest government contracting newsletter. And I believe it grows as fast as it does because I always try to put actionable advice for you on being successful in the federal market. Last thing I want to share is today I'm talking about being unforgettable, which is basically focusing your core offer. Tomorrow I'm doing training on picking an agency. I've been working with a couple of customers this past few weeks who been trying to figure out, which agency do I really go after for what I sell, the best one to go after, and then driving down into who are the people, et cetera. Well, tomorrow I'm going to walk you through I think it's like a 9-step process I used, and I used AI as a way to figure out the right agency for a company where I didn't know anything about what they sold really. And so it wasn't my area of expertise. And I locked down the steps and I picked a really good agency and really good subordinate commands. So I want to show you how I did that. That way, if you're trying to refine who your target customers are, you've got a process that helps you do that. That's tomorrow's training. So make sure you register for that. Okay, this is thirsty work. So let's talk about the power of being typecast. In this particular case, I'm going to use Matthew McConaughey, romantic comedies. If you don't know who Matthew McConaughey is, you're missing out. Go watch his movies. They're good movies. But he, in Hollywood, is known as a reliable rom-com, romantic comedy, rom-com money maker. He was making movies after movie that was rom-coms that producers and directors and others in Hollywood knew if you got Matthew McConaughey on your movie, you were probably going to have a really good return on investment on making that movie. It was going to make hundreds of millions of dollars type thing. And the challenge that I want to share with you as it relates to being typecast, because in this particular case, it was a little hard on him. But if he was us, we'd be totally happy with his problems. What Matthew wanted to do is he still liked rom-coms, but he wanted to be doing serious movies, dramas. He wants to really push his acting chops. You can think of it like you want to be doing additional work beyond just this one thing. So anyways, he was communicating to Hollywood, look, I don't want to do rom-coms anymore. I want you to start sending me offers of dramas and other serious movies I can be doing so that I can really play some interesting characters out there. He kept saying no, but they wouldn't send him. And this is kind of the collective they, but Hollywood and the leaders within Hollywood, other agents, et cetera, they wouldn't send him the screenplays for the type of work he wanted to do. They just kept talking to him about rom-com. Oh, you're an expert in rom-com. You should just stay in that space. And he's like, no, I don't want to. I want to do more. And actually, what happened was he was trying for a while. It took him the end of the story is it took him 20 months to ever get the first drama character that he could play, dramatic role that he could play in. But in that 20-month period, he kept getting these rom-com invites. And at one point, they came and they brought him this rom-com and they said, I really want you to be in there, Matthew. It's we'll pay you $8 million to do this movie. And he's like, no, I'm not doing rom-coms. And then they came back a little bit later and said, look, we'll give you $10 million to do this rom-com. And he's like, no, I'm not doing rom-coms. And then they came back again and offered him $12 million. You're the best at romantic comedies. We want you to do it. We'll give you $12 million. And he was like, no, I'm not doing romantic comedies right now. I want to do dramas. Bring that back to me. And a little bit later, a few months later, they came back again and they're like, we will give you $14.5 million. And Matthew went, wait, give me that screenplay again. Let me read that thing. Maybe it'd be interesting to me. And he goes, that $14.5 million screenplay was a lot more attractive type screenplay, even though it was the exact same words as the $8 million offer they got. Now for him, he went on to say no. He's like, I don't want to do that. And that led him to go where he wanted to go. But the point of this was because he was known as a romantic, a rom-com actor, he was getting the best roles being brought to him at the very highest amount. That is kind of what we want. We want somebody to bring us the best contracts and pay us the top dollar for it. And the way that happens is when we're typecast as the best rom-com actor or the equivalent for your business in the federal market. Now, let me give you another really famous actor, Neil McDonough. I play a television personality here. Okay, so let me tell you about my last company because we were typecast and we were typecast on purpose. I wanted it to be that way, that we were the SharePoint guys. My last company, when I started it, we made sure that our core competency, our one thing was that we did Microsoft SharePoint services. So Microsoft has a product called SharePoint, and that's our space. The reason we decided on going all in and staying typecast, right? I wasn't thinking about being typecast. I was thinking to myself, I don't want to go anywhere else. I just want all the SharePoint business I can get. So my lessons to you came after it all worked. but Microsoft had sold SharePoint to every federal agency. And at the time when I started my last company, none of them were really knowing how to use that product. Microsoft sold them. So we went in there and said, look, you don't have to buy anything new from us. We'll just help you implement what you already have. Why would you buy new software? And then it turned out to be a really good play, but we got known as the SharePoint people. And so early on, the type of contracts we had were basic SharePoint administration, like a new user coming on, or permissions, or create a document library, things like that. And also some basic development, what we call out-of-the-box development, meaning we didn't use code. We just used the built-in tools to do something fancy. And because of that experience in demonstrating the quality of our work, we were able to get fancier and fancier projects related to Microsoft. So SharePoint architecture and administration, meaning then we went away from just working on a couple of sites to managing the entire SharePoint environment. And when I say the entire SharePoint environment, we went from early on supporting 25 to 100 users to supporting 25 to 100,000 users. Like at the Air Force was one of our largest contracts, and the VA is similar type thing, up in near that 100,000 users, which was huge contracts because it's trust. That was the government putting their trust on us. And then we were able to expand into the Microsoft stack software development. So there's something called .NET development. It has nothing to do with SharePoint, but we can use it. And then we used it with SharePoint, and then eventually we're using it on its own. So we graduated within our customers on the work we were doing by getting in the door saying, we're the SharePoint guys, we do this stuff. And we were making people remember who we were. The type of major projects or initiatives we were working on is we went beyond just creating a basic calendar or a list that somebody could use in their day-to-day job to managing records management throughout an agency using SharePoint and the automation of electronic document management and content control and records management, as well as program and project management that we were starting to do throughout DHS and some other places. And this is true program management on some of their billion-dollar projects, which led us to do a contract around enterprise architecture. And if you don't know what enterprise architecture is, it's really far away from SharePoint. It is looking at the entire enterprise, excuse me, and basically how are we using IT on the hardware side, the network, and the software side? How are we looking at the entire enterprise in there? Well, we were able to land a contract in the enterprise architecture space because we came in with a different way than all of our competitors, saying, why don't you use SharePoint to blah, 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 blah. They loved it. We just brought in a couple of subcontractors who were experts at enterprise architecture. My point for saying this is that we went in and even as we were winning those bigger and bigger contracts, if we talked to somebody new, we're like, oh, we're the SharePoint guys. We can help you with basic stuff. We never went and said, oh, hey, we can do these fancy things now. We kept coming back to the core, which allowed us to build upon itself within each customer. And then you're looking at the work there, the scope of work, and that part's really important because we did a lot of stuff that could be close to saying, well, we did everything, but we never sold everything. We only sold SharePoint. That's all we ever sold. And that's all people knew in their head about us. Even when we were running a couple of $100 billion in programs within DHS, for example, they knew us as the SharePoint people. Even though I was supporting the President of the United States, both Obama and Trump, during those periods, we had a 5-year contract in there. Even though we were supporting some of the most sensitive stuff that was going on in the White House, anybody would look and go, oh, they're SharePoint guys. You got to talk to them. They'll take care of anything. We were brought in on weekends for some of the most sensitive stuff because of the skills and experience we demonstrated. But again, they knew us for SharePoint guys. And this goes into the next bullet here, customer organic growth. We would win contracts like at the White House and be pulled over into DOD, who also supports the president. And they would bring us over and go, oh, they're the SharePoint guys. You got to bring them in. You got to talk to them, try to get a contract with them or whatever. And so we were able to bounce off of customer after customer. I use a couple of examples here where when I started the company, we started at one particular hospital in the VA. And by going in one hospital and doing a really good job on one thing like SharePoint, we got introduced to other hospitals because people in hospitals talk to each other, especially like in the VA. We would get introduced to hospitals, and then we were at the network level, which is the next level up. And then the network leadership would introduce us to each other. And all of this led us to being able to win contracts at the headquarters for the Department of Veterans Affairs. If we had tried to knock on their door early on, we didn't have any experience or proof. But because we did some of the most basic things around one core competency, we got known. And I put in here departments of education, homeland security, transportation. My last company, we were in almost every single federal agency and department that you could think of, all of it doing SharePoint, which was a really attractive thing. Anyways, this is the power of being typecast. We would get handed contracts almost, or at least brought in solidly to say, we want to hear what you guys have to say, because we did one thing, Microsoft SharePoint, and we did it, we scaled where our projects, our contracts kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, not different and different and different, just bigger, more users, more applications that were being developed on there. So anyways, I get pretty excited about my past company, but it's important to understand all of that happened because we were typecast. And so that's the idea of typecast and the power of typecast. What I want you to watch out for, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I want to make sure I save time for the last slide, but FOMO hurts you. And FOMO is fear of missing out, fear of saying we're the SharePoint guys, and instead going, no, we do IT, information technology, which is software development, network engineering, cybersecurity, data analytics, cloud. Like we start saying all these things. And we worry, the fear of missing out is that if I just say I'm the SharePoint guys, then I'll miss out on enterprise architecture. Well, I'm not actually an enterprise architecture company. That's not my expertise. My expertise is SharePoint. I was able to scale it into a big enterprise architecture contract, but only after we proved ourselves and landed a lot of business. In the 8A program, and this is my observation of the 8A program and the facts that go with it if you look at USA Spending, but the 8A program is not successful for most 8A small businesses. I know there are a lot of good businesses that have had a lot of success through the program and continued success, but that's not the norm. The norm, and forget about the companies that go into 8A and don't even get a contract. The norm for 8A businesses, unfortunately, is they come in, they get some success, and it goes up like a bell curve. And then at the end of the 9-year program that they're in, it kind of goes out. And my reasoning for this is that firms are optimizing around 8A, right? Not positioning themselves as an expert, being typecast. Instead of using the 8A as a way to get more and more of the same thing, they end up going really wide in agencies and contracts. And so they start having success, but the success is without any level of depth in one agency. So at the end of that 9-year program that they're in, they're not really deep in the Army, like everywhere in the Army. Instead, they're at like 20 or 30 agencies. And instead of being an expert at this one particular thing, they've got so many unrelated contracts that doesn't help you go after the next big contract or go full and open, et cetera. These early wins, right? I said they're scattered across. My big problem with it is that the past performance that you should be trying to build as a business should be a $50 contract in 3 of them. The 3 $50 contracts enable you to get $3,000 contracts doing one thing. And then the $3,000 contracts allow you to get 3 $100,000 contracts. These past performances build on each other, enabling you to get bigger and bigger contracts. But every time you do a different type of work, you have to kind of restart, and you can't write a response proposal with 3 solid past performances of all your past performances are all spread around. The last thing about this, and something that's a big problem with small businesses, is that sometimes we don't see that we're in a weak position when we're landing. Let's say we land a $5 million contract over 5 years. Super exciting. But if it's in the wrong space at the end of 5 years, we're not competitive out there. And we don't see our success because we kind of see the revenue, and the revenue is temporary. But scaling your business around your one thing, that's not temporary. That's long-term success. Okay, here's what I want you to do to become unforgettable in the federal market. In the idea of being unforgettable, I really want it to be something like Graham, who I know is on here, so Kami and Nina from Graham Inc., They do American Sign Language services, American Sign Language for deaf interpretation. That is solidly in my head. Rafa from Bravo One, they do elevator support services. She actually does all sorts of construction stuff, but her one thing, and the thing she's got in my head and everybody else's, is elevators, right? And so I want you to be known for one thing. What is that one thing, right? You have to go through this exercise of especially if you really do have multiple things. Let's say cloud, data, and cyber. Those all three are unrelated. They are three different core competencies. And if you have program and project management, et cetera, that starts saying I'm doing everything, and you can't really do it all, but you can be the very best at one thing, right? And I want you to whittle your one thing down. Think to yourself, of all these things, what do we get paid the most for? What are we truly the biggest expert at? Here is one of the challenges we have sometimes. It relates to FOMO, but we don't understand the difference between our core competency, and this is an exercise I want you to do after the training. Understand there's a core competency I have, let's say SharePoint. And then there's an enabler to my core competency. Even though I said we did program project management, that was something different. But before that, when we were just getting started, we did project management. We were agile software developers, et cetera. But that wasn't our core competency. That project management, that agile software development skill set, DevSecOps, all that kind of stuff was all an enabler under our SharePoint core competency. We did SharePoint application development. That was one of the services. SharePoint application development with agile project management as an enabler. It enables us to do more of this work. This is a really important thing to try to remember as you go forward. When you look at what you say about your company, and I wish I had time to look at like some of the write-ups you might say, but look at what you might have said about your company on your website or DSPS or wherever, and go, am I saying I'm doing a bunch of things, or am I saying I'm doing one thing and I'm putting its enablers right next to it? I want to use Chris Moffitt as an example, and hopefully she's okay with this. She and I were trading emails or comments back and forth on LinkedIn. And we were talking about if you ever been to some of my trainings where I talk about the one thing, et cetera, I'm always like, Chris Moffitt, she does all things training. And today I was sharing something out, and she and I were talking. I was like, wait a minute, let me challenge you a little bit more, Chris, because I got it. All things training in my head. But what kind of training? Because I have another customer and friend, Samir, who does project management training. That is very specific type of training. So I asked her, if it's all kinds of training, well, specifically what training? And she wrote back, she was having fun with this too. And she said, our present focus is training to help VA therapists explore new therapy modalities and improve skill sets, and training to make all VA spaces safer. And so in the interest of putting something on the slide, I said, well, in my head, if I was guiding you and rewriting that, I might sit there and say, our specialty is healthcare training, specializing around patient care and hospital safety, because she's in the VA, supporting the VA. And then I could talk to her about, you could have technology enablers like virtual reality glasses where you're able to, like patient or hospital safety. If you don't know this, hospital safety, one of the aspects is every single person in the hospital, if they're walking the hallway and they see a liquid on the ground, they all need to know what to do with it, and they stay there until it's solved. No patient can come after that and slip and fall, because everybody in the hospital is trained on the right thing to do. And the hospital goes through and does assessments on everybody each year. Well, Chris may be able to expand healthcare training, which is her one thing, into training can be done with the virtual classes. And by the way, since we do that, why don't we do the assessments throughout the year? And instead of once a year, we do it twice a year, and you can do retraining as needed, et cetera. This is a way to begin to think about what you do. For Chris, I said healthcare training. Now in my head, if she says this is okay, I'm going to be thinking that. And that still enables her to support the VA, the Department of Defense, Health and Human Services. All of them have hospitals and patients, and it enables her to go to every single commercial hospital that's out there, every state and local hospital that might have physical therapy type stuff, right? It enables her to go everywhere by saying one thing. Something to consider when you start thinking about what's your one thing. I hope you put it into the chat. Let me know. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First off, FOMO, fear of missing out and trying to chase too many things, will kill long-term success. Being known for one thing, though, is being known. I have never met Chris Moffitt. She and I haven't even been at an actual event. We just are engaged on LinkedIn all the time, and we get to know each other more and more through it. Being known for one thing is being known. I've always had all things training in my head, and I never forget her. Now I won't forget her with healthcare training. The third thing I want you to remember is only pursue contracts related to that one thing. I guarantee you, if you do this, you will be invited to more and more contracts and opportunities that relate to your one thing, and you will have the success that you want. Do me a favor on LinkedIn. When you like what I put out, whether it's posts I put out or these trainings, go in and repost with no comments. When you do that, you push my stuff out to your network and you bring your network back into our community. And if we're all doing that, we're bringing more and more people into the community that you can network with and that I can. And I would appreciate that. All right, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's a process. Part of the process is ending on time. I'm on time. I'm out of here.